and welcome to another episode of Laying Down the Lore of the Old World.
Woo!
A lore podcast in which we aim to separate our ghouls from our goblins, our snotlings from our Skaven storm fiends, and our bloodthirsters from our blood
From our Bretonian knights, yes.
and generally ask, what's up with this Warhammer stuff? My name is Ben Crone Barber, and I know pretty much fuck all about Warhammer. With me is my co-host Christopher Crowlin Allen.
Hello, hello.
Who knows absolutely fuck all about Warhammer.
Hello.
And my dear brother Darren,
Good morning.
who knows so much about Warhammer it's a wonder he has time to do anything else. After gathering online to slay some vermin in the name of Sigmar, this dichotomy between our levels of understanding became clear, and this series is an attempt to address that ignorance.
Come on, Chris, you can't. Ignorance.
Did you just blow a raspberry during our entire ignorance harmony attempt?
Oh, that's right. I went there.
But was the raspberry in tune?
No, it wasn't. Excuse me. It was a little flat there, wasn't it? That's better.
Nice. Well done. Kral, last episode, you attempted to give a shout out to somebody, and I stopped you because it was the intro, and then I had the shout out later, and you had a tantrum because you felt like I'd taken over. So I completely edited it out of the episode, and I thought I would give you the opportunity to do it again now.
Well, now I need to find the fellow's name.
It was Erin and the Two-Tailed Lion.
Erin and the Two-Tailed Lion. Great novel. Love
Harry
it.
Potter
prefer
and
the
Aaron
movie,
and the
but-
Two-Tailed Lion.
You know.
Yeah, excellent.
Erin, you the person. How you doing, buddy? Good to never have met you.
Buy more beer, apparently, is what Tom wants to say.
Oh, yeah. And buy beer from our mate. So he gets commission. And then the Milky Bars will be on Tommy.
Does your mate work for like a beer selling company, or is he just on the street selling loose beer?
You can get whatever you want.
Just a Heineken here, a Grolsch there, whatever he's got. Whatever he can fit in his jacket pockets.
Yeah, and it's all in Ziploc baggies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Erin. Whatever you do not buy beer from that man called Tom. If he claims to be a beer salesman, run the other way.
Right, well, moving on.
Anyway, enough plug. Let's plug our show instead of Tom. Let's go.
Let's plug our show. Yeah, big thanks to everyone that supports the show. You guys are great. If you would like to support us, there's a number of ways that you can do that. You can head over to Patreon, where you can sign up for our Discord for just £3 a month. Or you can pay an extra £2 and gain access to our bonus show, Chunks of Dar. We also have merchandise and links to our affiliates. If you're into the hobby, just click the Quartermaster link in the description and send us some
Francs.
support bucks. Francs, yeah.
Well, euros now.
This year, send us redundant currencies. I think that would be great. Just
Hey, guess what? Redundant currency was the name I used to dance under. Boom!
He's back, everyone. He is back. Send us your drachma, and we'll figure out what to do with those. This episode may include some ads that also help us create this content for free. So easiest way you can support us, just let them play. It's really that simple. And Kral, what else can they do if they wanted to support the show?
Just be nice. Just be nice to one another. Be generous. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe.
Nice.
Follow, subscribe.
Nailed it, Kral.
Like, follow, subscribe.
The Church of LFS. It's one letter off.
Yeah, man.
That was a joke for exactly 3 people, none of whom were on this record.
Speaking of jokes, we did ask everyone listening to post jokes.
Oh yeah,
in
dad
the
joke.
comment section of Spotify. Do you want to hear some?
Yeah, go on, go for it.
Yes.
Okay. What do you call a magic dog?
Wait.
Oh, I saw this one.
Wait. It's not poodle. Labracadabrador.
You bastard.
Did I get it?
Well done. Yeah, man.
Nailed it.
That was from Metalhead Dad.
That's good.
Another one from my favorite avatar, Lord Bumcrack. Great name. Said, "Oh, I love telling dad jokes. He loves them."
And then
there's always going to be an obligatory silence when you're reading out a list of dad jokes at some point. Another one from Stoneforge. He said, "I caught my son chewing on electrical cords, so I had to ground him. He's doing better currently, but conducting himself properly."
oh, that's mate. That's just flaring. That's just dad joke flaring. That is.
Showing off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, too many. Like, you should have just cut it at 2 sentences, man.
Yeah. Demoted yourself just to a joke at that point.
So, final one, a bit more thematic. Have you heard of the dwarven psychic that escaped from prison the other day?
No.
A call went out that there's a small medium at large.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
That got me. That got me.
That was from Rework, who I think we may know, but yeah, well done. I think that was we ended on a high note there, at least.
Nice. Bravo, guys. Love it. Always time for a dad joke. And you know what else it's time for, Chris?
Hello, Reichland. It's time for the Rods App Recap.
Bretonia. Done.
There you go. Nice. These are getting more and more succinct. Some might say that you're shirking on your duties, but not you.
Yeah. Whoa, not in public, buddy. No, I'll probably just end up dropping the vowels after a while. Just making more and more.
Use all the ones that Glaswegians you don't use.
You. Yeah, Bretonia and more Bretonnia. Early days of Bretonnia. Louis the Rash, the first king, wasn't he? Or the first king that, after being promoted from a Grail Knight, he was being haggled by some undead Tomb Kings or something. Jafar, the Sultan. This is really janky. I'm going to go with it anyway. So, some dudes from Arabe, some guy called Jafar.
Yeah.
Because every villain in the make-believe of Arabe is called Jafar. He came with a bunch of undead dudes over to Bretonnia, had a quick dig at Bretonnia, at Maglita, took over a little bit of land, but then got ushered out. And the Bretonians were like, hey, we're not just going to fucking sit on our French-style bottoms and do nothing about this. We're going to respond and rebuttal.
But they said all of that in French.
Yeah. Ooh la la. They went the long way around to Arabe and kicked some Arabe butt. And lessons were learned. Bridges were built.
Mistakes were made.
Yep. And they lived happily ever after. There were some funnily pronounced areas in Arabe, such as Al-Haik and other places like that.
Oh God, I forgot I did voices.
Yeah, there were voices.
Yeah. Some of them were borderline racist.
Yeah.
On the other side of the border. Yeah.
Oh, look, there's Eunuch Mountain. And
nice.
So, things got a bit sandy, a bit hot, but ultimately the Bretonians came out on top and taught them a lesson. A really good lesson, didn't they? So, don't you be coming onto our land again. The end.
I mean, that was perfect. I've got no notes at all. I clearly remember talking about how Jafar invaded Estalia with the Tomb Kings and not his own kind of living forces. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we should bring back Kral's for the various voices. Can we have Herbert the Pervert again? Into jazz these up a bit,
God. If there are things I could eliminate from people's minds, it would be that fucking intro.
I think most listeners, when they think of you, think of that character. So, well done for associating that.
You want some popsicles?
The only thing we really missed out of that recap was the attempt by Jafar to poison everyone with baked goods. That's why the French people don't like Jafar cakes.
No, Darren. Get back in your box.
I think the worst joke that I just read out there was better than that one.
Oh, yeah, by miles.
Yeah.
Well done to those four. Yeah.
Okay, so we left off with the Bretonian forces returning back from Araby, as Chris highlighted there, and then settling into a good, solid kind of routine of turf wars, Grail quests, and battling against orcs. And so we now want to introduce a new opponent into the ranks of Bretonian history. So we're now roughly 700 years before present time in the Old World, and our present time is 2522 is the year that we're going off of.
It's very specific.
We start with a huge outbreak of Red Pox. Now, keen-eared listeners remember that Red Pox is one of the fun little up-and-coming diseases raised by the Skaven, and it ravages Bretonnia like a ravager. I couldn't think of anything funny.
like the pox. Yeah.
Like the pox. It ravages them like the thing it is, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
In the wake of this kind of plague, Skaven emerge all over Bretonnia, and then again, once again, ravage the countryside and its populace before laying siege to the cities of Brionne and Quinelles, or Quinelle. Mousillon, if you'll remember, the cheeky little dukedom that's on the east shore of the Bretonian coast. Mousillon itself is devastated, as they say in Ireland, by the plague. But the Duke Merovich de Mousillon, and his knights are spared.
I just on a side note, there's one thing that I didn't read out on the intro. It was a post from somebody who sent us an English adapted pronunciation guide in case you lot want to get it right for the next year or whatever. And I thought, it's too much. We've done the dad jokes. It's too much to insert. But as you're talking, I'm just looking through his pronunciation. I'm like, yeah, we're definitely not saying any of those right.
Go on.
I tell you what, right? I'm going to send you the list, and you can do the pronunciation. You tell me, right? There you go.
Oh, okay.
Gille de Breton.
Soft J.
Have you met
Soft J
du Breton?
Have you met our founding knight, Gille? Yeah.
Very French. Gille du Breton. Baston.
Quinelle.
And similarly, Couronne and Brionne, Mousillon, Repons de Lyonnais.
What's the top one? Luen Le Unker.
That's the king.
Oh, okay.
Big hippogriff Lou.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it's fairly safe to say thank you, Andrew Fawcett. Isn't that a tap?
No, it's
is Andrew
Fosse?
this militant with his family?
Fawcett.
It's pronounced Fosse because it's French, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, you're undoubtedly right. Apparently, he's French adjacent, so he's just next to French. He's not
Spanish?
French himself. He's just German.
Does he identify as French, or is he
He's
just
Russian.
adjacent to French?
He's just he identifies to French adjacent crowd.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's fairly safe to say, Andrew, everything that you've written there is correct. We won't be saying any of those.
Where was I? Yes, Duke Merovich de Mousillon. We'll use that one now because Mousillon plays quite a significant role in the thing. What if he's just taking the piss?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a real chance.
Hey, listen, this is a community podcast, all right? Everybody chips in. Like, if it's wrong, it's because we all got it wrong.
But mainly Andrew.
Anyway, Duke Merovich of wherever, he rides out and begins beating the Skaven back. He breaks the sieges at Brionne and Quinelle, or Brionne and Quinelle. And
hold on, let's check the dictionary of Andrew here.
And begins to feel like he is Loudon of Mousillon reborn. You know, that great hero who was one of Gille's roadmen. And so
is he getting a bit too big for his boots?
Getting a little bit big for his boots. But he eventually breaks the Skaven kind of invasion of Bretonnia. And at a victory feast in his
Pronounced Bretonnia, actually.
Yeah. Administered him. And at the victory feast, he absolutely loses his mind because he feels no one is giving him his proper due as the kind of savior of Bretonnia. And he ends up challenging the king to a duel. The reports are kind of mixed. There is either a glorious duel within the kind of feasting hall of Mousillon, or he kind of tears the throat out of the king in a murderous rage.
Nothing in between. Okay.
Yeah, nothing in between, either or. The city is invaded, and the kind of great lands of Mousillon outside of the city are absorbed by Leonese.
Hold on. It's pronounced Bordelot. Oh, no. Sorry, Andrew.
And it's felt that the invasion is triggered as much by Leonese's traditional kind of rivalry with Mousillon as by Merovich's kind of evilness. The city of Mousillon never really recovers, and much of it falls into poverty in the following years. Listeners, Ben has this shit-eaten smirk on his face every time I try and say the name of the city.
I'm struggling. I really am. Sorry. I'm still laughing about him being Russian.
Now, talk about adjacent.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell.
Coming over here, invading our language. If you'll recall,
or whatever.
Yeah. Or whatever.
Oh dear. Excellent.
I'm hoping you'll recall that on the return from Araby, one of the dukes was assassinated. I take it from your blank expressions, no. Anyway, turns out he is reborn as the Red Duke. Not a Russian superhero, but a vampire.
A vampire.
He challenges the Duke Guillaume d'Aquitaine. Isn't that a soap? And is defeated several times and beaten back into the forest of Chalons, or Chalon. None know if he still dwells there. So there's this nebulous kind of blood knight, vampire warlord hiding out in the woods. And that's a lesson for life.
Just being a nuisance.
Yeah, don't go into woods.
Yeah, it's fine if you don't go in there.
Yeah, if it's not the fucking elves, it's vampires. Why would you bother?
Just stay away from all woods.
Merovich was eventually killed, and he was, despite his notoriety as a traitor, having killed the king and attempted to usurp the throne. There were many kind of rebellious and outlawed knights and nobles that kind of flocked to his banner for one reason or another. And they eventually took his body and buried it in this huge, elaborate kind of burial palace in the heart of the city of Mousillon, Russians. And it eventually sank into the ground, which is unusual for architecture, although perhaps not so unusual in the Old World.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As we march towards the turn of the millennia, there is an event called the Battle of Lamentations, where a plague fleet, a chaos fleet dedicated to Nurgle, reported as being so foul that it turned the sea black in its wake. So, hashtag not Greenpeace.
Do you know what it was? It's maybe like that thing. I don't know if this was ever actually true, but it was something that I think my parents told me when I was younger. Like when you're in the swimming pool, if you pee, they put a chemical in it that turns it
purple.
black,
turn
purple or something. So maybe that's what it was. It was a urine boat or a urine boat, however the Australians and Americans say it.
It's a soft J, just a urine boat.
Yeah. Sure.
Wait, did that the wrong way. Yeah, Ben, if it goes black, you need to go see a doctor, mate. Okay?
It is actually, it's weird that you mention it, because the great general of this Chaos fleet was known as Urethra Franklin.
Hey!
Nice.
She makes a return.
Cross IP Jackson.
Yeah.
There.
So it's it's that sexy. So it's led by a Chaos Lord known as Karan the Blighted, where a force of kind of a combined army of Nurgle and Khorne lay siege to the city of Couronne and end up slaying the Bretonian king and his knights as they charge out to meet the invaders. All seems lost when, from nowhere, a young woman takes up a sword, puts on some armour, and heads out in a kind of very Joan of Arc-y kind of way. And she's known as Rapance de Lyonesse. Hang on a second, Andrew. I'm checking again. Rapance
de Lyonesse.
Well, Repance is crime in... It's where you ponce again.
Yeah. It's like if you weren't poncy enough, you've got to go and
repeat poncer.
He's a multiple poncer.
But she leads a huge charge out and defeats the Chaos Lord in single combat. And King Louis the Young, the new son of King Louis the Brave, bestows on her both the title of Knight and the Duchess of Lyonesse. We will cover her in more detail when we look at the heroes and heroines of Bretonnia.
It's quite a rarity then for a female character to... Is it a female character who's not one of the damsels? Is that right?
Yes, so she's a female knight. Exceedingly rare up until the release of the Old World, where now there are female knight figures. Cool. And so still quite uncommon, but they will appear in a lot of tabletop armies just because of the nature of the kit that's there.
Cool.
We now move into really the kind of the final kind of 300 years of the Bretonian history. A lot of it is formed around wars of errantry. If you'll recall, these are kind of mini crusades where knights errant, these are young nobles who do not have land, are sent out into the world to take on huge armies and enemies, or to clear a specific thing, or to retake a position. So King Luon Orcslayer, who is the king at the time in the game, the Old World, declares a errantry war against the orc and goblin tribes that have been amassing for years in and around Bretonnia. And we see that the borders of many of the outer dukedoms are expanded, and many kind of greenskin strongholds are cleared out and their lands taken and with new castles built along the new borders.
New castle?
A new asshole is built along many of the borders. And many of the young knights errant are given control of these lands as a kind of reward for going on the crusade. Speaking of crusade, there's a brief callback where a mixed force of Bretonians and border princelanders or borderlanders escape from the land of the dead where they had been pillaging and come to deliver a message to the Old World saying that Cetra, King of the Dead, has awoken. Mr. Chris.
Uh-oh.
What is there to loot in the land of the dead?
Lots of gold and magic items. It's an entire civilization that was, scalified, but all of their goods and treasures still exist.
Gotcha.
Many of them magical in nature. Towards the end of that year, a significant kind of, two armies from Bretonnia are really formed. One heads south through Estalia and Tilia to face off against the forces of the Tomb Kings, supported as they are by mercenaries from the Badlands. And many of the kind of exiled Bretonian knights who are in the Badlands join this crusade, hoping to gain either wealth, influence, or a return to Bretonnia. The other armies faced off against an orc Wa that's erupted from the Pale Sisters and rampages across Bretonnia. And so the king launches 2 armies there in the same year that word is brought from Araby and that the Cetra is once again amongst them. We return now to that infamous city, the unpronounceable city of Mousillon, and we look at the affair of the False Grail, which is one of the kind of key historical elements within Bretonian recent history, where the Bretonian king dies, and with no male heir who can then go off and become a Grail Knight and be made king, his daughter Isolde declares that the next knight errant who could slay a Jabberwock would be the king.
What's a Jabberwock?
A Jabberwocky is a cross between a dragon and a really depressed giraffe with wings.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's like one of those lame creatures.
It does sound like something out of Star Wars.
A little bit.
Also, isn't a Jabberwocky one of the first staffs you get in Skyrim or something like that? I'm sure it is. And it has a weird, it turns your enemies into something or does something crazy.
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah. I've just realised that we're just about to talk about the fake Grail. Both of you should have received a package in the post.
Oh.
Do you have it?
Oh, yeah.
Open said package. Dar, you were saying that, we don't have a tentacle anymore.
Yeah.
So instead we've got...
Well, don't spoil it. I'm opening up the package.
Mine came in a timmy'stales.com selection package.
Mine came in a White Scar Space Marine.
Yeah. It's so disappointing if that's what you were wanting. Mine didn't come in anything.
Speaking of fake grails. Look at that. That's hefty. Well, it's got a bit of heft to it. You could do some damage with that.
Oh, look at mine. Scully. That's amazing.
There you go. So we've got chalices, people. We've got chalices. We've got furry chalices.
Right. But which one is the real one? Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Mine's got a Templar.
Dar's has got a skull on it. Mine's got a cross and a shield on it. And your crowd's got a Templar. So there we go. No more tentacles and no more questions being accepted unless one has raised one's chalice.
Okay, we'll see if we can get this to work. With no clear successor to the Bretonian throne, Duke Maldred of Mousillon claims to have married the Lady of the Lake, presenting a false grail and attracting many kind of disillusioned and questing knights. In reality, Maldred managed to capture and imprison the Fey Enchantress, the high priest of the Lady of the Lake, and that prison is guarded by a monster summoned by his consort, Malfleur. Maldred holds a tournament, deceiving many knights with kind of false magics and of course his fake Grail. And Grail knights, though outraged, can't act really without the Fey Enchantment's endorsement. And despite searching for her, failed to find her at all. In rides Gaston de Guest, a knight on the Jabberwock quest, and he discovers the prison where the Fey Enchantress is being held and defeats the Guardian Beast, the great monster. And as a reward, Gaston drinks from the true Grail and is made king of Bretonnia because the Guardian Beast was in fact a Jabberwock.
Jabberwock, I know we're in a land of make-believe. the whole thing is fantasy and fiction.
But it's just a funny word, isn't it?
It's a funny word, and even in the world of make-believe, it seems like a bit outrageous. The Jabberwock. Isn't a Jabberwock kind of a generic kind of creature in a lot of fantasy IPs? It's like the Krampus in Scandinavia or the Netherlands or something?
It may have been mentioned before, but I think it's from Alice in Wonderland.
Okay,
she has to kill the Jabberwock.
Apparently, it just says invented or meaningless language. Nonsense. Which is quite an interesting name to give something, if that's like... Yeah. So we couldn't even be arsed coming up with like a semi-serious, believable name. We'll just call it. And then the bullshit flew in and attacked them all. It's like, okay, great.
And also, how do you say Jabberwock in French Bretonian? Because
it's Le Jabberwock.
Le Jabberwock.
Tout le monde, Jabberwock.
It's like listening to like Gaelic radio. It's like postman, microwave. Yeah.
This message is funded by the Undying Court of Mousillon, not affiliated with the Grail Council. Blood before bureaucracy. This witching night, vote for the only knight brave enough to bleed for Bretonnia and make others bleed with him. Merovech of Mousillon, chivalrous, visionary, possibly mad. Sure, he may have duelled and disemboweled the so-called rightful king in a dramatic midnight confrontation beneath the screaming moon, but who hasn't made a few passionate leadership decisions? While others bow to dusty old Grail visions and talk of noble bloodlines, Merovech offers action, plague resistance infrastructure, blood wine for all, and weekly public executions of the unchivalrous. Bretonnia needs a new kind of king, one not afraid to get his hands, well, completely soaked. Vote Merovech. He's already taken the crown. Now give him your heart.
Maldred rejects the elevation of Gaston and attempts to claim the throne, although the Fey Enchantress exposes his kind of treachery and he is stripped of all his honour. And indeed, the Green Knight enters the chat. And this is a mysterious...
the Green Power Ranger.
Knight, yeah. It's effectively... That's effectively what he is, Chris.
Episodes. Right, yeah,
Effectively, he's the Green Power Ranger. My favourite Power Ranger style joke was I think it was Family Guy, who says, so welcome to us now, Green Ranger. Over there we've got the Black Power Ranger, the Green Power Ranger, the Blue Power Ranger, and over there is the Power Ranger who is white. Anyway, the Green Knight is the spirit of Bretonnia manifest. So he's much like the Avatar for the Eldar in 40k. He appears when something truly astounding and dangerous is about to happen for Bretonnia. And he just...
Or like Grumbrindle.
He doesn't even have a sword. He just walks up and goes like that. No. And then walks back. Although he doesn't.
Yeah, you didn't say the magic word.
You didn't pronounce it correctly. So the Lady of the Lake reveals that has revealed the true Grail, and all of Maldred's followers kind of abandon him. He flees back into Mousillon for 3 years, and eventually they managed to get into the city, the attackers, and unfortunately, him and Malfor were found dead of the Red Pox, which had finally claimed the Knights of Mousillon. And
well, they shouldn't have shared the same furry chalice. Then,
there was no social distancing. I mean, that's exactly. That's a key thing. The entire city and its provinces were declared a cursed wasteland, and no new duke has ruled there since.
Wow.
Do you recall...
Dukeless. Your dukeless wonders.
The tale of... Do you remember we said in last episode of a knight, a Duke Melmon of Quenelle, who marched into the forest of Lauren? It was a throwaway thing. 1,000 years have passed, and a man emerges from the forest of Athel-Lauren, claiming to be the Duke of Quenelle, Duke Melmon, and he ages much like the baddie in Indiana Jones and the Thingy Grail, where he ages hundreds of thousands of years in moments and just crumbles to dust.
Wow. Did anyone see him? Or was it just...
Yeah, because otherwise he's just a guy who died in the middle of nowhere and no one would report it.
So if a tree falls in a forest and makes a sound, does it make a sound?
He just walked out of the forest, screamed into the air, "I am the Duke of Quenelle," and then crumbled to dust.
Wow.
Unheard.
Well, that was random. Wow, it's that guy that no one remembered disappeared into the forest, has come out 1,000 years later and just crumbled out of nothing.
I mean, it's not like everyone was sitting around and then he just walked out and they were like, "Holy shit, isn't that guy from 1,000 years ago?" And then he died.
Melmon! Yeah.
Oh my God, Melmon, you're back! Blah, 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 blah. They're like, they just look at him die and they're like, "That was weird. Who was that?"
So anyway...
It's around this time where the High Elves begin to make their kind of presence felt in a larger way in Bretonnia. When the city of Couronne is laid siege by an enormous kind of beastman war herd, aid suddenly arrives in the form of a High Elf army under the command of Prince Imric of Calador, or Kralador, I beg your pardon.
Wow.
Imric of Kralador. There we go.
a staggering 2-day battle where, in reality, the High Elves couldn't give two hoots about the fate of Couronne, as their only concern were the waystones that lay buried within the kind of foundations of the city. This doesn't stop the kind of ambassadors and expressions of friendship between the two populace, and this becomes quite well known, and the spies of Malekith, the Witch King, learn of this alliance and decide that time has come to punish the humans of Bretonnia for their temerity in involving themselves in what he believes is, quite rightly, his race and his culture. He incites chaos by sending emissaries to the Beastmen in the Forest of Arden in Bretonnia and to the Greenskin tribes of Massive Orkel. The resulting kind of internal unrest forces the king to withdraw the armies and defences from coastal areas to protect Bretonnia's heartland. This is the kind of two main areas within Bretonnia are now awash with greenskins and beastmen. While the Bretonnian armies are engaged with these enemies, the Dark Elves launch an enormous kind of slaving raid along the northern coastline of Bretonnia. Villages and whole towns are destroyed, the defenders either killed or enslaved and shipped back to Naggaroth. Languil, do you remember the kind of greatest port of Bretonnia, is completely destroyed, and its streets are littered with kind of the mutilated corpses as the various angry Dark Elf troop types carry out the executions and tortures that make their lives tippity-top happy.
Yikes.
Satisfied that he's kind of severely weakened Bretonnians' capacity to provide support to Ulthuan, his entire force withdraws. And within a couple of years, Bretonnia then becomes awash with new knights, kind of, trying to replace the forces that were lost during this devastating raid.
It's been a while since we've heard from those pesky buggers, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, within a couple of years, as I say, Bretonnia is awash with knights errant, so much so that the king launches a new errantry war, and in fact it's the longest one ever launched, lasting 70-ish years, against the greenskins within his own country, but also against the greenskins that are beginning to come up through the Badlands into the border princes, and then obviously into the Old World proper. We return once again to Mousillon, where the Grail Chapel, the largest one remaining standing in the city, is besieged by an enormous horde of undead. And when the horde disperses, none of the priestesses, the Grail damsels, can be found. And the kind of living occupants of the city fear that they've been eaten by zombos. And the chapel, is having been kind of pulled down, is never rebuilt. We turn our attentions now briefly to the seas of the Old World, and indeed Bretonnia. We're around about 100 years before present, and there's what's called the Pirate Wars. Now, we'll cover that more when we cover the Empire, because
now we're talking.
The Pirate Wars are based out of Marienburg, and one of the kind of key battles is this Battle of the Tides, where the Bretonian navy is able to trap the pirate fleets that are coming up from Tilia and to some extent Estalia, and manages to trap them against the coast and sinks them. But where does this happen, Darren? Guess where? It's outside the coast of the province of Mousillon. So once again, the city makes itself known. And it is the largest sea battle ever seen in that dukedom, although not necessarily in Bretonnia itself. Mr. Ben.
You have to say, Ben, you have your chalice raised.
Ben, you have your chalice up.
My chalice.
Ben, I can see a chalice, mate.
Yeah. I can see
anyway,
chalice.
It's actually pronounced callus. I don't know if you can see that.
Callus. I've got those on my feet. Does these pirates, they're coming up from Tilia and Estalia. Are they're not, because I know that there's a lot of mercenaries come out of those countries or kingdoms, whatever they are. Are these pirates in the typical sense? They are
pirates in the typical sense. Yeah.
But they're organized. There's a fleet of them.
There's almost like a pirate city-state called Tobero, which weirdly is not triangular in nature. And yes, so there is a small pirate nation developed around the port city of Tobero. Yeah. So yes, not supernatural pirates, although they have wizards and witches and stuff. Moving on, there is something called the Crusade of Blood, which sees the crone Helberon declares a holy war for Cain. So this is again the Dark Elves. And so they launch their own form of crusade from Har Ganeth and pass through Nagaroth and into the Old World. Even as they were kind of sailing west, because sailing east, they had to sacrifice the weakest members of their own army to maintain the kind of beneficial gaze of Cain. And so his focus was still there supporting the army. They eventually landed in Bretonnia and moved south, devastating the lands as they went, killing as many of the damsels and Grail Knights as they could because of the magic imbued into it by the Lady of the Lake, who, unknown to the Dark Elves, is this elven goddess. But their blood regenerates the kind of tired, aging bodies of all the witch elves and the kind of crone queens who lead the witch elf forces. The crone Helberon being the kind of the head honcho. they continue to march through into the Border Princes and the Badlands, and eventually make their way back down to, or eventually make their way to the lands of the Tomb Kings, Nehekhara, where they run into a very specific problem. None of their enemies have blood, so they can't sacrifice them to the god Cain, who eventually just, his attention moves on, and their forces start to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, and eventually Helberon leaves, but her champion, Tularis Deathbringer, kind of stays at the kind of border of Nehekhara. He sacrifices half of his army to try and get the attention of Cain back. And kind of the half that's remaining is drenched in blood, drenched in their comrades' blood as they fight the Tomb Kings, kind of seeking one last victory for Cain before they head back to Naggaroth, which they ultimately do. Mr. Chris.
Yeah,
don't
another
answer that.
campaign.
Don't answer that. Where's your chalice, Chris?
Excuse me.
Jesus.
Where's my callus?
Yeah.
Yeah, so many, just going back to the Border Princes and people going through, I feel like it's like the Panama Canal, and there are queues of armies waiting to pass through the Border Princes, because it's the only through route, do you know what I mean? Like to anywhere. in that side of the world.
I just love the idea that there's someone there with like a ticket going, now serving army number 7. Number 7.
Or like, what was it? Was it the Evergreen ship that like pivoted and got stuck in the Panama Canal?
That's right.
That's right.
And the Border Princes, an army which just like pivots 45 degrees and wedges itself.
I have a poster on my bedroom wall that was on that ship. I ordered it from one of these sites that pretends it's a UK site and turns out it's actually Chinese. And it took like 3 months to arrive. And I just kept getting a series of like updated emails being like, your poster's still on the ship. And the ship is still in the canal. So this is fascinating. With regards to the Dark Elves, I can't quite remember, because I may be getting mixed up with the Drukhari in 40k, but do they need to sacrifice in order to survive? Are they cursed in some way?
No.
Or is it a buff rather than a...
it's more a buff. It's a form of prayer to the god Cain. They also use it as kind of social cleansing, where they get rid of the dark elves that are too stupid to not, be killed.
Right.
It's very Darwinian style culture.
I'm all for it. I think we should bring it back.
No, because I don't know which side I'd be on, so no.
Yes, true. I don't know which side you'd be on either.
I'm quite mercenary, but also I'm really lazy. So that would cause problems. We're just 2 decades away from the kind of present day, with the crowning of Luan Lucor, the king of Bretonia, who is the king during the end times. And he's immediately concerned with the Mousillon problem, and strengthens the kind of cordon that the knights have around the city, and assists the Dukes of Lyonesse and Bordelot in patrolling their borders. So he's beefing up security, much like the Empire does with Sylvania, to kind of cordon it off.
Keep an eye.
Just wrap it in halflings, Wrap it in halflings, you're done.
Half an hour in the oven, delicious.
Delicious. We also begin to see around Mousillon, but also in Bretonnia, in wider Bretonnia, the first sightings of the kind of Black Knight, this antithetical anti-hero of Bretonian nobility. And we'll dive into him in a big way in later episodes. But Malobod is his name, I'm assuming. That's how it's spelled.
Andrew, what you got to say about that?
Who knows? Who fucking knows? Andrew knows.
Andrew will know.
Andrew knows.
He'll know.
We now see the return of the most glorious champion of chaos, Sigvald the Magnificent.
Oh my god!
Enters into the township of Schamberg and razes it to the ground because of the wine he had. That was from
the wine.
Sigvald.
Was it because it was a really bad wine or really?
It was because it was really bad wine. Yeah,
it was really bad wine. Right. Okay. Well, obviously, it wasn't a wine from. Was it Bordeaux? No, Aquitaine. Yeah, which one is Bordeaux. The one that makes the best wine? Bordeaux.
The one that's like Bordeaux. Bordeaux.
Yes, that makes a lot more sense. Now I'm saying it out loud. I'm hearing it. Yes.
We now come to the kind of final, the final
countdown
mini campaign, which is what's referred to in Bretonnia as the Year of Woe, and this is where
sounds fun.
The god Tzeentch sends down his kind of demonic servants, mostly the demon Kairos Fate Weaver. If you recall, it's the two-headed Lord of Change, the evil Chaos Chicken. And seeks to have seeks to gain the 12 magical artifacts that Gille de Bretons had while he was reuniting Bretonnia. So one after another, the tombs of the Grail Companions are desecrated and whole townships are razed with thousands of Bretonians of all ranks, nobles and peasants, killed by the demons of Tzeentch, and with castles offering no defense against the kind of sorcery of the pink horrors and the warp fire of the flamers of Tzeentch. Only kind of real Grail shrines remained as true kind of safe haven, protected by the power of the Lady of the Lake. And as Kairos Fate Weaver's demons kind of collected these sacred artifacts, their power grew. So they were like constantly getting buffed and rebuffed. Ultimately, they're able to gain 8 of the 12 artifacts, meaning that only the kind of bravest of knights and dukes would fight against them in open combat. By the end of the year, more defeats are suffered by Bretonnia than victories. And the final battle, of course, where was the final battle? It's the Siege of Mousillon, where the last artifact was held, ready to launch their kind of final counterattack against the forces of Tzeentch. Suddenly, bubbling up from nowhere, probably the ground, a host of demons associated with Nurgle intervene, hoping to save the city from the influence of Tzeentch and the control of the magical artifacts. The Bretonians are unaware of the rivalry between Chaos Gods, as all right-thinking Bretonians would be, and end up attacking and becoming attacked by both demon factions indiscriminately. They're just, it's on site between humans and demons.
Yeah.
A great unclean one, known as Kugath Plaguefather, kills Kairos Fate Weaver, the Lord of Change.
What?
But was then himself slain by the blessed lances of the Grail Knights. So 2 greater demons died in short order. Because, much like the armies of the undead, once the generals are gone, the demon armies begin to fade away back into the realm of chaos. And both armies ultimately vanished fairly quickly, leaving behind only the artifacts that were stolen from the tombs of the Grail Companions. And thus ends the Year of Woe. And our final note we should make in the history of Bretonnia is that King Luan is preparing now to launch another errantry war, declaring it against the forces of Mousillon and the Black Knight himself.
Wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
See,
who was the Black Knight?
Malabod.
Oh.
The one who had started to appear in and around Mousillon, yeah.
Right, okay.
Let's wage a war against that person who's just started to appear around Mousillon.
Yeah. I don't like the look of him.
How dare he appear?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not one of us. Burn him! Is that what we'll be covering next?
It will be covering mostly heroes and heroines of Bretonnia. We might do something special next episode. I haven't decided yet.
Oh,
You mentioned it before. It is quite piecemeal, isn't it? It's like it is like a book of short stories rather than, a kind of single driving narrative. Is that why do you think that is? Is it?
It's like a Tarantino movie. Like they're all intertwined somehow.
Yeah, but you'll never know how.
I mean, there's a lot of army or Warhammer armies who had like a Warhammer army book every edition. With the Bretonians, they only ever had 2 distinct army books in all 8 editions of Warhammer. So I think it's simply that the attention wasn't paid to their story as much as it could have been because they were not particularly well liked as an army.
Has the lore been developed more now that they've been re-released? Like, has there been a lot of new stories?
Not really. Maybe an extra page or 2, but that's focused purely on the kind of... It's justifying the armies of legend and the armies of renown that are available for Bretonians players in the Old World, rather than this is the true and deep history of Bretonnia.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame, because I think
there's some good moments in it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all the component parts are there. But nobody's kind of... We need a room full of red thread connecting everything.
Yeah.
And then, bam, best story ever. That's what we're looking for.
Pepe La Silvia. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well,
that's it.
La Grands.
Let's call it a day then. All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. Details and imagery for the topics we've discussed in this podcast can be found on our website at layingdownthelore.com. We also have all our previous episodes on there, release schedules and merchandise, and maybe at some point in the future, branded chalices, chalice, whatever the plural of that is.
Chalet.
Chalet, yeah. Andrew will let us know at some point, no doubt. Again, if you are keen to support the show, just click on the Quartermaster link in the description and give us all your francs, all your drachma. We'll be back again soon, displaying just how little Chris and I know. And until then, a cheerio.
Au revoir. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.